The Caraxian diplomatic vessel. Harmony glided through the darkness of space, its sleek blue hull shimmering with bioluminescent patterns that shifted and changed like waves on an ocean. Amy Green stood at the viewing portal, her forearms clasped. Behind her back as she watched the stars streak by, the tall alien woman with iridescent blue skin had been promoted to senior diplomatic envoy after the successful negotiations on Epsilon 9 3 months ago. Lieutenant Trina Mason stood beside her, the human officer now a permanent liaison to the Caraxian diplomatic corps. Unlike most humans who still wore full armor around aliens, Trina had adopted a modified uniform that covered her body but left her face exposed, a sign of trust that did not go unnoticed. "We will reach Outpost 77 in approximately 6 hours, Trina said, her green eyes reflecting the starlight. "The Coalition Security Council is eager to hear your proposal for the joint scientific base." Amy nodded, her secondary arms adjusting the formal diplomatic sash that crossed her torso. "The proposal represents decades of research, much of it conducted before the war." She hesitated. "The data crystal you provided has been invaluable. The biological compatibility studies we began 15 years ago have been expanded upon by our scientists." Trina smiled slightly. "I always knew those experiments were important. That's why I saved the data when the evacuation orders came through." The ship hummed quietly around them as they stood in comfortable silence. Two beings from different worlds who shared a history few would understand. For 3 years, their species had fought a brutal war based on misunderstandings and extremist propaganda. Now they worked together to rebuild what had been lost. Amy's personal communication device chimed softly. She touched it with her lower left hand. "Commander Patel wishes to speak with us. The human admiral has questions about the security protocols for the joint base." They made their way through the corridors of the ship, passing Caraxian crew members, who respectfully lowered their secondary arms in greeting to the senior envoy. Human crew members were still rare aboard Caraxian vessels, but their numbers had been growing since the peace accords. The command center was a large circular room with holographic displays showing star charts and communication feeds. Admiral Maya Patel, a stern-faced human woman with dark hair streaked with gray, waited for them. Her image, projected from the human battlecruiser Guardian that escorted the diplomatic vessel, Envoy Green Lieutenant Mason Admiral Patel nodded to each of them. "I've been reviewing your proposal for the joint scientific outpost. The research objectives are clear, but the security measures seem inadequate given the sensitive nature of the work." Amy stepped forward, her luminescent skin patterns shifting to display confidence and openness. "Admiral, the Caraxian High Council has committed 3 defense cruisers to the protection of the outpost. In addition, the location in the neutral zone provides natural security through isolation and makes it difficult for either side to send reinforcements if needed." Patel countered. "What guarantees do we have that the biological research won't be weaponized?" Trina spoke up carefully. "The proposed oversight committee includes equal representation from both species. Admiral, any research must be approved by unanimous consent before proceeding." Amy watched, the Admiral's face noting the subtle signs of human skepticism she had learned to recognize. The war had left deep scars on both their peoples. Trust would take time to rebuild. "Very well," Patel said after a moment. "I will support the proposal at the council meeting. But Lieutenant Mason, I expect you to maintain constant vigilance. Our peace is still fragile." When the communication ended, Trina sighed. "Some humans still believe all Caraxians secretly want to conquer Earth, and some Caraxians believe all humans want to exploit our biological technology." Amy replied, her patterns shifting to show mild amusement. "We must give them reason to believe otherwise." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm. The ship lurched violently, throwing both of them against the wall. Amy's secondary arms automatically reached out to steady Trina as the human nearly lost her balance. Emergency alert echoed through the ship. Unknown vessels approaching at high velocity. Weapons signatures detected. Amy rushed to the nearest communication panel. The captain's voice came through clearly. "Senior Envoy, we have detected 3 unmarked ships. They are not responding to hails and are on an intercept course. Show me, Amy demanded. A holographic display appeared, showing 3 small but heavily armed vessels approaching rapidly. Their design was unfamiliar. Neither human nor Caraxian pirates, Trina suggested, or mercenaries. Amy's skin patterns darkened with concern. We carry no valuable cargo beyond scientific equipment, unless we are the targets, Trina said quietly. There are factions on both sides that oppose the peace. She touched her sidearm, checking that it was secure. The ship rocked again as the first energy blast struck the shields. Amy grabbed the communication panel. Senior Envoy Green to Captain Vex, activate defensive measures and alert the Guardian. We are under attack. The Harmony's engines surged as the ship accelerated. The Guardian, a human battle cruiser twice the size of the diplomatic vessel, moved to intercept the attackers. Energy weapons lanced out from both allied ships, striking one of the unmarked vessels. Amy and Trina made their way to the bridge, dodging crew members rushing to their emergency stations. The ship's captain, a veteran Caraxian named Vex, nodded to them as they entered. Senior Envoy, the attackers are using a hybrid technology I have never seen before. Their weapons have Caraxian energy signatures, but their propulsion systems appear to be modified human designs. That's impossible, Trina said. No one has shared that level of technology yet. The ship shuddered under another impact. The bridge lights flickered momentarily. They knew exactly where to hit us. Captain Vex said, "Our primary communication array is damaged. We cannot contact the Guardian or any other vessels. We need to reach the emergency shuttle." Amy decided, her forearms moving in complex patterns as she accessed the ship's computer. The data from our research must be preserved. Trina nodded, already moving toward the exit. I'll gather our security team and meet you at the shuttle bay. Amy hurried through the corridors of the damaged ship, her tall form moving with the fluid grace typical of her species. Despite the emergency crew members were sealing compartments and activating emergency systems as smoke began to fill certain areas. When she reached her quarters, Amy quickly gathered the most important data crystals, including the one Trina had given her months ago, and secured them in a specialized container designed to withstand extreme conditions. Her personal items she left behind. The ship rocked again, more violently this time. The internal communication system crackled to life. All personnel prepare for emergency maneuvers. Boarding attempt detected in lower section 3. Amy froze boarding. The attackers weren't trying to destroy the ship, they wanted to capture it or someone on it. She touched her communication device. Lieutenant Mason, come in. Static answered her. The communication systems must have been more damaged than they realized. Amy made a quick decision and changed direction, heading not toward the shuttle bay but toward Section 3. If boarders had come aboard, she needed to know who they were and what they wanted. The corridors became darker as she descended into the lower levels of the ship. Emergency lighting cast an eerie blue glow that made her skin seem to shimmer like water. The sounds of combat echoed from ahead. Energy weapons and the distinctive sound of Caraxian sonic disruptors. Amy slowed her approach, moving silently as she had been trained during her mandatory defense courses. Before becoming a diplomat, she had served as a scientific explorer, often in dangerous, uncharted territories. Those skills returned now as she carefully peered around a corner. What she saw made her secondary heart skip a beat. 3 figures in unmarked black armor were engaged in combat with the ship's security team. Their movements were too fluid for humans, but their tactics were not Caraxian. They fought with a hybrid style, using weapons from both worlds. One of the attackers turned suddenly, as if sensing her presence. The faceless helmet oriented toward her position. Amy pulled back, but not quickly enough. An energy blast hit the wall beside her, sending fragments of metal flying. One sharp piece sliced across her upper arm, leaving a trail of silvery blue blood. Backup, requested in Section 3. Intruder sighted. The mechanical voice was neither human nor Caraxian, but a synthetic translation. Amy ran her long legs, covering ground quickly. She needed to warn Trina to alert someone about these hybrid attackers. But as she rounded a corner, she collided with a solid form. Lieutenant Mason, surrounded by 3 human security officers, stood before her, weapons ready. Amy, you're injured, Trina said quickly, noting the blood on her arm. We need to get to the shuttle now. The Guardian is drawing off 2 of the attack vessels, but 1 has already deployed boarding parties. What are they? Amy gasped. They fight using both our combat styles. Their technology is merged. Trina's expression hardened. That shouldn't be possible unless the lieutenant didn't finish her thought. Instead, she motioned to her team. Form a perimeter around the envoy. Move toward the shuttle bay secondary route. They moved as a unit, Amy, in the center of the human security team. The sounds of fighting grew more distant behind them, but new alarms began to sound. Throughout the ship, warning breach detected an engine containment field. All personnel evacuate immediately. Repeat, evacuate immediately. The ship no longer just rocked, it began to shudder continuously. The shuttle bay erupted in chaos as the black armored figure fired. The energy blast struck not Amy but Captain Vex, who had lunged forward. The Caraxian captain crumpled to the floor, silver-blue blood pooling beneath him. Get down, Trina shouted, pulling Amy behind a cargo container. The 3 human security officers returned fire, forcing the attacker to take cover. More explosions rocked the ship. The emergency lighting flickered, revealing additional black armored figures entering the shuttle bay. We need to split up, Amy said, her voice steady despite the fear pulsing through her luminescent skin. They are after something specific, either me or the research data. She pressed the container of data crystals into Trina's hand. Take these to the Guardian. Tell Admiral Patel what happened. Trina shook her head. I won't leave you. Amy gripped the human's shoulders with her upper arms while her lower arms checked the small defensive weapon she carried. You must. The research is more important than either of us. It could end the lingering hostilities between our peoples permanently. Before Trina could protest further, Amy activated her personal cloaking device, a standard piece of equipment for Caraxian explorers visiting potentially hostile worlds. It bent light around her, making her nearly invisible, except for a slight shimmer when she moved. Go, Amy whispered. Now. She slipped away from the cargo container, moving silently toward the secondary exit. Her specialized training as a scientific explorer in dangerous territories served her well. Now the attackers were focused on the human security team and the shuttles, not expecting a target to move away from potential escape routes. Behind her, she heard Trina shouting orders. The sounds of weapons. Fire intensified. Amy felt a pang of worry for the human lieutenant who had become more than just a diplomatic counterpart over the past months. But she forced herself to continue moving. The ship was dying around them, every system failing as the sabotage spread. Amy reached the maintenance corridor that ran parallel to the main hallways. These narrow passages used by repair crews would be her best chance to reach the secondary shuttle bay on the opposite side of the vessel. She moved quickly, her tall form bent to avoid the low ceiling. The ship's automatic systems continued to announce the imminent core breach in both Caraxian and human languages. Warning: core containment at 15%. Estimated time to critical failure: 8 minutes. All personnel evacuate immediately. The maintenance passage ended at a junction. Amy paused, listening carefully. The sounds of fighting had faded, but she could hear booted feet running in the corridor beyond. The attackers were spreading throughout, the ship searching methodically. She slipped through a small access door into what had once been the ship's hydroponics section. Now it was dark and empty, the plants having been removed when the Harmony was converted to a diplomatic vessel. The large, empty growing beds provided excellent cover as she made her way toward the far exit. A noise to her left made her freeze. 2 figures in black armor entered through a side door, their weapons ready. They moved with the same strange hybrid fighting style she had noticed earlier. Not quite human. Not quite Caraxian, sir. The target's biosignature was detected in this section. One said, the translator device making the words flat and emotionless. We've got 5 minutes before this ship breaks apart. Find her. The other replied. Its voice carried a hint of actual emotion. Frustration, perhaps. Amy held perfectly still. Her cloaking device could hide her from visual detection, but the more sophisticated bioscanners could potentially pick up her unique life signs, especially at close range. She needed a distraction. The hydroponic section still had its automated systems even without plants. Amy reached out with her lower right arm and accessed a control panel, the sprinkler system designed to water The now absent plants activated, suddenly spraying the room with nutrient-rich water. The black armored figures turned toward the sound of the activating systems. One raised a scanner. Interference detected. Recalibrating. Amy didn't wait. She moved quickly, taking advantage of the distraction to slip past the attackers and through the far door. The corridor beyond was eerily quiet. Emergency evacuation pods lined one wall, most already launched. Their empty chambers gaped like missing teeth. The secondary shuttle bay was just ahead. Amy could see the entrance now, but something was wrong. The door was open when security protocols should have sealed it. She slowed her approach, activating her personal scanner, a small device all Caraxian explorers carried, to analyze unknown environments. 4 life signs registered inside the shuttle bay. Not Caraxian. Not fully human either. The readings were strange, showing biological patterns she had never seen before. Amy hesitated. She could try to find another way, off the ship. Perhaps another evacuation pod that hadn't been launched. Warning: core containment at 5%. Critical failure. Imminent. 4 minutes to detonation. The decision was made for her. There was no time to find another escape route. Amy checked her weapon and moved toward the shuttle bay entrance. She would have to try to slip past the attackers and reach one of the remaining shuttles. She peered carefully around the edge of the doorway. The secondary shuttle bay was smaller than the main one, with only 3 small vessels designed for short-range evacuation. 2 had already been launched. The third sat ready, its engines humming softly. The 4 figures in black armor stood in a loose semicircle facing the entrance. Their weapons were raised as if they had been expecting her. One stepped forward, removing its helmet. Amy nearly gasped in shock. The face revealed was neither human nor Caraxian, but something in between. The skin had the faint blue tint of a Caraxian, but lacked the luminescent patterns. The eyes were human-like, but with the silver iris of her own species. The figure had only 2 arms, but they were longer than human standard, with an extra joint senior envoy. Green, the hybrid, said, its voice surprisingly melodious. "We have been looking for you, Amy." Dropped her cloaking device. It was useless now. "Who are you?" "We are the future." The hybrid said simply. "The successful merger of human and Caraxian genetics. The first generation of a new species, impossible," Amy whispered. "The compatibility research is still theoretical. The genetic barriers have been overcome," the hybrid interrupted. "We were created using the research you and Lieutenant Mason began 15 years ago on Epsilon 9, research that was stolen and expanded upon." "Created by whom?" Amy demanded. The hybrid smiled, revealing teeth that were definitely not human. "By those who saw opportunity in war. While your governments fought, some visionaries on both sides worked together in secret. They saw not conflict but potential. Not separate species but a stronger combined future." The ship shuddered violently. A computerized voice announced core breach imminent. 2 minutes to detonation. "You need to come with us." The hybrid said. "The creators wish to speak with you. They believe your expertise is essential to solving the genetic instability issues in the 2nd generation." Amy thought quickly. These hybrids, whatever they were, represented a terrifying misuse of the research she had conducted. The work meant to bring peace and understanding between species had been weaponized, twisted to create soldiers. "And if I refuse?" The hybrid gestured to the shuttle. "The only way off this dying ship is with us. Your choice is simple: senior envoy, death, or discovery." Another violent tremor shook the ship. Alarms blared, warning of imminent destruction. Amy made her decision. She would go with them, learn more about these hybrids and their creators, then find a way to contact Trina and the Coalition. "Well," she said. The hybrid nodded and gestured toward the shuttle. 2 of the armored figures moved to flank Amy as she walked toward the vessel. The shuttle was standard Caraxian design with modifications she didn't recognize. The interior was sparse, with 8 acceleration couches designed to accommodate both human and Caraxian physiology. Amy was secured in one of the couches, the restraints automatically adjusting to her 4-armed form. The hybrids took their positions. The pilot initiated launch sequences with practiced efficiency. The shuttle broke free from the dying diplomatic vessel, just as the first explosions began to tear it apart. Amy watched through the viewport as the Harmony, the ship that had been her home for the past 3 months, broke into pieces. The brilliant flash of the core detonation lit up space briefly before fading. Her thoughts turned to Trina. Had the lieutenant made it safely to the Guardian with the research data? Or had she perished in the destruction, all those lives lost? The attack had been precisely planned and executed. Your companions escaped in the other shuttles, the hybrid said, as if reading her thoughts. Lieutenant Mason reached the Guardian with 3 minutes to spare. Amy turned to look at the strange being. How do you know this? We have sources on the human vessel. The hybrid checked something on a small device. The Guardian is already searching for you, but they won't find this shuttle. Our cloaking technology is superior to anything either humans or Caraxians possess. Where are we going? Amy asked. To the place where we were created. The hybrid looked at her with those strange silver human eyes. A research facility hidden in the asteroid belt of the Cygnus system. There you will meet the creators and understand why your work was so important. Amy remained silent as the shuttle accelerated away from the debris field. The hybrids watched her with curious expressions. Their movements were unsettling, neither fully human nor Caraxian, but something new, something that should not exist. The asteroid loomed ahead, a massive chunk of rock and metal that had been hollowed out and repurposed. Amy watched through the shuttle viewport as they approached. From the outside, it appeared to be nothing special. Just another piece of space debris, among thousands in the belt. But as they drew closer, she saw the subtle signs of habitation, small docking ports, sensor arrays disguised as natural formations, defense systems that would look like mineral deposits to casual scans. The hybrid pilot guided their shuttle toward what seemed to be a solid rock face. But as they approached, a seam appeared widening into a docking bay large enough to accommodate vessels much bigger than their small craft. Amy remained quiet as the shuttle settled onto the landing platform. The artificial gravity felt slightly stronger than standard, nearly identical to Earth's pull, she noted. That suggested the facility had been designed with humans in mind. The hybrids escorted her from the shuttle into a wide corridor carved directly from the asteroid but lined with smooth metallic panels. The air smelled recycled but clean, with a hint of something floral that Amy couldn't identify. This way, the lead hybrid said, the one who had revealed its face. Earlier, the others remained helmeted and silent. They moved with military precision, their modified bodies clearly designed for combat. Amy followed, taking careful note of their route. 4 right turns, 2 left. The layout seemed intentionally confusing, a security measure to disorient visitors or prisoners. She wasn't sure which category she fell into yet. They passed several laboratory spaces visible through transparent walls. Scientists, both human and Caraxian, worked inside, seemingly cooperating. Without tension, Amy slowed, trying to see what they were working on, but her escorts urged her forward. The corridor ended at a large circular door which slid open as they approached. The room beyond was spacious, with a domed ceiling that displayed a perfect holographic recreation of an Earth sky, complete with clouds and a warm yellow sun. The floor was covered in living plants, a mixture of species from both human and Caraxian worlds growing together in carefully designed patterns. In the center stood a small table with chairs on either side. One designed for human anatomy, the other modified to accommodate a Caraxian's 4 arms and different spinal structure. Welcome, Senior Envoy Green. A woman emerged from among the plants. Her appearance was fully human. Middle-aged, with short gray hair and eyes of such a pale blue they appeared almost colorless. She wore a simple white laboratory coat with no insignia or identification. I am Dr. Elaine Foster, director of the Convergence Project. Amy studied the human woman, careful to keep her luminescent skin patterns neutral, revealing nothing of her inner thoughts. Who are you really? And what is this place? Dr. Foster smiled. Please sit. We have much to discuss. The hybrids will leave us. Amy hesitated, then took the seat designed for her species. The hybrids withdrew silently, the door closing behind them. She was alone with this human who apparently commanded hybrid soldiers and operated a hidden research facility. "I'm sure you have questions," Dr. Foster said. "Many of them I am prepared to answer." "Why have you brought me here?" Amy asked. Foster leaned forward, clasping her hands on the table. 15 years ago on Epsilon 9, you and a young research assistant named Trina Mason made a remarkable discovery. You found that certain aspects of human and Caraxian biology were compatible at a cellular level. That discovery was buried when the war began, but some of us recognized its importance. You stole our research. Foster shook her head. Not stole. Preserved and expanded upon. While your governments were busy trying to destroy each other, a group of scientists from both worlds came together here. We continued what you had begun. The hybrid soldiers, Amy said. They are a perversion of our work. Our research was meant to develop medical treatments, compatible organ transplants, shared medicines. Never to create the next step in evolution. Foster interrupted. The hybrids are not just soldiers. Senior Envoy. They are the first generation of a new species, one that combines the best traits of both humans and Caraxians: enhanced strength, regenerative capabilities, extended lifespan, the luminescent skin patterns that allow emotional communication, the human capacity for intuitive thinking. Amy felt her secondary heart rate increase. Her patterns would be showing disgust and anger despite her attempts to remain calm. You had no right. The genetic barriers between our species exist for a reason. The long-term effects of such tampering are unknown. Foster waved a hand dismissively. Progress always involves risk. The first generation has been stable for nearly 10 years. Now we are developing the second generation, but we face challenges. Genetic instabilities have appeared. Unexpected mutations. That is why we need you. The original researcher, you destroyed a diplomatic vessel and killed innocent people to bring me here. A regrettable necessity. Foster said, her voice hardening slightly. The peace between humans and Caraxians threatens our work. The Coalition would shut us down if they discovered this facility. The hybrids would be destroyed, or worse, studied like lab specimens. Amy leaned forward, her forearms pressed against the table. You speak of them as if they are your children, but they are weapons. Soldiers who attacked my ship. They are both, Dr. Foster said, and more. They are the future, the inevitable next step. Your governments waste time with treaties and trade agreements. We offer true unity, a new species that belongs to neither world and both. And you believe I will help you? Amy kept her voice steady despite the anger flowing through her. Foster smiled. You already have. Your presence here has been noted by our observers in both governments. By now, they believe you have been killed, or perhaps even that you orchestrated the attack yourself. The seeds of distrust have been planted. The fragile peace will fracture, the Coalition will dissolve, and in the chaos, we will emerge offering a third path. The scope of the plan stunned Amy. These people had been working for years, manipulating events from the shadows. Their hybrid soldiers infiltrating both governments. Their ultimate goal, not just scientific breakthrough, but political revolution. You underestimate the commitment to peace. Amy said, many have worked too hard for too long to let it fail so easily. We shall see. Foster stood, gesturing toward a different door. Come, I will show you our facility. The work we have accomplished. You will understand then why this is necessary. Amy followed, her thoughts racing. She needed to find a way to contact the Coalition to warn them about this threat. But more importantly, she needed to learn everything she could about these hybrids, their strengths, their weaknesses, their true purpose. The facility was larger than Amy had expected. Tunnels and chambers extending deep into the asteroid. A small city, hidden from the rest of the universe. Dr. Foster led her through laboratories where scientists worked on genetic sequencing, cultivation chambers where embryos developed in artificial wombs, training areas where hybrid children practiced combat maneuvers. These are the second generation, Foster explained as they watched children with varying degrees of hybrid characteristics. The oldest are 7 years old. They show even greater integration of human and Caraxian traits, but they also exhibit the instabilities I mentioned. Accelerated aging in some, immune system failures in others. How many? Amy asked her, voice barely a whisper. Over 200 first-generation adults, Foster said with obvious pride, and nearly 500 second-generation children, 700 hybrids. Amy felt cold despite the regulated temperature of the facility. An army in the making, not just soldiers. Foster insisted again. Though their combat capabilities are remarkable, they will be diplomats, scientists, artists. The beginning of a truly unified future. They continued the tour, Foster explaining their achievements with the enthusiasm of a true believer. Amy listened carefully, noting details, searching for weaknesses, the security systems, the number of personnel, the location of communication equipment. As they passed a medical bay, Amy saw something that made her pause. A hybrid child lay on an examination table, its skin gray rather than the healthy blue of a Caraxian. Its breathing labored. 3 scientists worked around it, monitoring equipment showing alarming readings. What is wrong with that child? Amy asked Foster, hesitated. The genetic instability I mentioned. It manifests differently in each affected individual. This one is experiencing cellular degradation. Its Caraxian DNA is breaking down. Can it be treated? We have tried various approaches. Foster admitted, none have been completely successful. That is where your expertise would be invaluable. Your original research contains insights we have been unable to replicate. Amy moved closer to the observation window, studying the sick child. Despite everything, these people had done, the lives they had taken, the manipulation and deception. The child was innocent. It deserved compassion. I would like to examine your research, Amy said. Your genetic sequencing. The modifications you made to my original work. Foster smiled triumphantly. I knew you would understand once you saw what we have accomplished. Come to my laboratory, I will show you everything. As they walked, Amy considered her options. These people were fanatics, convinced of their own righteousness, but their hybrid children were suffering, the victims of scientific ambition unchecked by ethics. She could refuse to help, condemning the children to suffering and death, or she could assist learning their secrets while searching for a way to contact the coalition. 3 days passed as Amy worked in the laboratory Foster had assigned to her. The genetic problems facing the hybrid children were complex but not unsolvable. With her specialized knowledge of Caraxian biology, she made progress identifying the key areas of instability. Each day she was escorted from her quarters to the lab and back again. Always watched, always monitored. The guards were first-generation hybrids. They treated her with a strange mixture of reverence and suspicion. She was both creator and outsider to them. Amy used this ambiguity to her advantage, gradually gaining their trust, asking questions, learning more about the facility and its operations. On the 4th day, as she worked on genetic sequencing, one of the guards approached her. His name was Nexus, a designation rather than a true name. His features showed more Caraxian influence than many of the others, with faint luminescent patterns visible on his skin. The child in Medical Bay 3 has worsened, he said. His voice carried genuine concern. They say she may not survive the night. Amy looked up from her work. Which one is that? The one with advanced cellular degradation. Nexus replied. 7 years old. Predominantly Caraxian features. Amy nodded, remembering. The child she had seen on her first day. The one whose condition had convinced her to cooperate. I need to see her. My work here is theoretical. I should examine an actual patient. Nexus hesitated. Dr. Foster has not authorized. This child may die. Amy's patterns shifted to show urgency and compassion, emotional signals that the hybrid could partially read. I can help, but only if I see her directly. The guard seemed to struggle with the decision. Then he touched his communication device. Dr. Levine. This is Security Station 4. The Caraxian scientist requests access to Medical Bay 3 to examine patient 27. There was a pause. Then a human voice replied, "Approved. Bring her immediately." Amy followed Nexus through the corridors of the facility, noting that they took a different route than before. This section appeared older, less refined, as if it had been part of the original construction. The walls were rough-hewn rock in some places rather than the smooth panels she had seen elsewhere. The medical bay was a sterile white room filled with equipment both human and Caraxian in design. A human doctor looked up as they entered, a woman with dark skin and tired eyes. "Dr. Levine, I presume," Amy said. The doctor nodded. "The patient is failing. Our standard treatments have been ineffective." She gestured to a small form on a medical bed. Amy moved closer, her heart's aching at what she saw. The hybrid child was tiny, her skin ashen, rather than the healthy blue it should have been. Her breathing was shallow and labored, monitoring equipment showing alarming fluctuations in vital signs. "May I?" Amy asked, gesturing to the scanning equipment. "Please." Dr. Levine stepped aside. "The child has a name, Lila. She shows more awareness than most of the second generation." More emotional development. Amy activated her personal scanner, passing it slowly over the child. The readings confirmed what she had suspected. The Caraxian DNA was breaking down at a cellular level. The human segments, remaining stable but unable to sustain life functions alone. Without intervention, the child would die within hours. "I need access to the primary genetic laboratory," Amy said, looking up at Dr. Levine. "I can synthesize a stabilizing compound, but I require equipment not available." Here Dr. Levine glanced at Nexus, who nodded slightly. The guard touched his communication device, requesting the necessary authorization. After a brief conversation, he turned back to Amy. "Dr. Foster has approved temporary access. Come quickly." They moved through the facility with urgency, passing other medical bays where Amy glimpsed more children in various states of distress. The genetic flaws were manifesting throughout the second generation, just as she had feared. The primary genetic laboratory was larger and more advanced than her assigned workspace. Multiple scientists worked at various stations, most too focused on their tasks to notice the new arrivals. Amy was led to an empty workstation equipped with synthesizing equipment. "I need the following components." Amy listed several specialized chemicals and biological materials essential for her work. Dr. Levine hurried to gather them while Nexus stood watch as Amy prepared the stabilizing compound. Her mind worked on two tracks. One focused on saving the child. Her scientific training and compassion would not allow her to let an innocent die. The other track continued planning her escape. She had learned much in the past days. The facility layout, the security protocols, the communication systems. The stabilizing compound took form in the synthesizer, a glowing blue liquid that would temporarily halt the genetic degradation. It would not cure the child, but it would buy time. Amy carefully extracted the completed formula into an injection device. "Let's go," she said to Nexus. They hurried back to the medical bay. The child, Lila, looked worse, her breathing now so shallow it was barely visible. Amy approached, checking the monitors. The life signs were critical. "This will stabilize her temporarily," she explained to Dr. Levine. "It reinforces the bonds between the human and Caraxian DNA segments, preventing further degradation, but it is not a permanent solution." Dr. Levine nodded. "Just do what you can." Amy carefully administered the injection, watching as the blue compound entered the child's bloodstream. For a moment, nothing happened. Then gradually the monitors showed improvement. Heart rate stabilizing, breathing deepening, the ashen color of her skin fading slightly as healthier tones returned. "Thank you," Dr. Levine whispered. "A temporary solution is better than no solution." Amy touched the child's forehead gently with one of her lower hands. "I will continue working on a permanent cure. But I need more access. More data. I will speak with Dr. Foster," Levine promised. "This demonstration of your abilities will convince her." As they left the medical bay, Amy noticed Nexus watching her with a new expression. His limited luminescent patterns showed respect and something else. Uncertainty, perhaps, or doubt. You saved that child, the hybrid guard said as they walked back toward her assigned laboratory. Why, Amy looked at him, surprised by the question. She is innocent. The circumstances of her creation are not her fault, but we captured you, destroyed your ship, killed your colleagues. And that was wrong, Amy said firmly, meeting his gaze. But this child did nothing wrong, nor did you, Nexus. You were created by people with an agenda. You didn't choose this. The hybrid seemed troubled by her words. We were taught that our purpose is to unite the species, to become the bridge between humans and Caraxians. Is that what you believe? Nexus did not answer. He escorted her back to the laboratory, where Dr. Foster was waiting. Her expression a mixture of approval and suspicion. You saved the child, Foster said. For now, Amy replied. The compound will degrade within days. The underlying genetic instability remains, but you can create a permanent solution. Perhaps, Amy said carefully, with proper resources and time. Foster nodded. Then you shall have both resources, time, whatever you need. You have proven your value. Senior Envoy, Amy returned to work. But she could feel the shift in the atmosphere. The guards watched her differently. Several of the hybrids now sought reasons to speak with her, asking questions about their Caraxian heritage. Questions that suggested they were not as indoctrinated as Foster believed. The seeds of doubt had been planted that night in her quarters. Amy finally enacted the plan she had been developing since her arrival. The guards had become less vigilant, more trusting. She had earned that trust by saving one of their own. Now she would use it from her work station. She had secretly accessed the facility's systems, discovering that they maintained a secure connection to external networks. For data gathering purposes, they monitored Coalition communications using this connection, carefully protected behind layers of encryption. Amy had modified her personal scanner to interface with this connection. It had taken days of careful work, moments stolen, while appearing to focus on genetic research, but it was ready. A simple message coded in an old Caraxian scientific protocol, one that Trina would recognize. The message was brief. Asteroid facility. Cygnus Belt hybrid soldiers. Evolutionary cult urgent. She activated the scanner, watching as it connected to the hidden network. The transmission would last only seconds, too brief to trigger security protocols. If her calculations were correct, the message would appear to be background radiation to the facility's sensors, but it would reach the Coalition communication array. The scanner beeped softly, indicating successful transmission. Amy quickly deactivated it and hid it beneath her sleeping platform. Her message was sent. Now she needed to continue her work on the genetic stabilization. The children could not be abandoned to suffering, regardless of who had created them. Morning arrived with a commotion in the corridor outside her quarters. Amy rose quickly, straightening her formal diplomatic attire, which had become somewhat wrinkled from repeated wear. The door slid open, revealing not her usual guards, but Dr. Foster herself, flanked by 4 heavily armed hybrids. You sent a transmission, Foster said, her voice cold with anger. Our systems detected an unauthorized communication originating from this section. Amy kept her expression neutral, her patterns showing only mild confusion. I have sent no transmissions. How could I? Your security is quite thorough. Foster gestured to the guards. Search everything, as they began to systematically dismantle her quarters. Amy maintained her composure. She had expected this possibility. The scanner was well hidden, but not perfectly so. If they found it, her position would become dangerous. The facility shook violently, waking Amy from a restless sleep. She sat up quickly as alarms blared throughout the asteroid. Warning level 1 alert. Defensive systems engaged. Multiple vessels detected. She moved to the transparent wall of her cell. Looking out into the corridor, hybrids rushed past, fully armed and armored. The containment level guards stood at attention, weapons ready. The attack she had been anticipating had begun. A familiar figure approached Nexus, his expression tense. Senior Envoy, the Coalition has found us 3 battlecruisers, the Guardian among them. They have deployed fighters. Amy felt a surge of hope. Trina had received her message. The lieutenant had convinced Admiral Patel to mount a rescue operation. Is Dr. Foster attempting to negotiate? Nexus shook his head. The doctor has ordered full defensive measures. She believes we can destroy the coalition force and that we must to protect our existence. That is madness. Amy said, the coalition fleet is too powerful. Even with your advanced technology, you cannot hope to prevail. And what of the children? They cannot be evacuated in the midst of battle. I know Nexus glanced back, ensuring they were not overheard. A group of us have been meeting secretly, discussing your words, questioning our purpose. There are nearly 50 hybrids now who doubt the path Dr. Foster has set. The facility shook again, more violently this time. The lights flickered briefly. We don't have much time, Amy said. The coalition will not risk a prolonged engagement. They will attempt to neutralize this facility as quickly as possible. Nexus made a decision. He pressed his hand against the security panel. The transparent wall slid open. I am releasing you, but you must help the children. Will Amy stepped out of the cell. Trina will listen to me. I can arrange a ceasefire, but I need to reach a communication system. Follow me. Nexus led her through back corridors, avoiding the main pathways where hybrid soldiers rushed to defensive positions. They encountered 2 other guards who nodded to Nexus without question. Part of the growing dissent within the hybrid ranks. The communication center was located near the command level, a small room filled with equipment monitoring frequencies across the system. 2 hybrids worked at the consoles. They looked up as Nexus and Amy entered. We need to send a message to the coalition vessels, Nexus told them. One of the hybrids, a female with stronger human characteristics, looked uncertain. Dr. Foster ordered communications blackout. This comes from higher authority. Nexus lied smoothly. Amy noticed how easily the deception came to him. A human trait, perhaps. The hybrid operators hesitated, then stepped aside. Amy moved to the console, quickly familiarizing herself with the controls. They were a hybrid technology, but the basic principles were standard. She opened a channel using coalition emergency frequencies. This is Senior Diplomatic Envoy Amy Green to coalition vessels. I am alive, and inside the asteroid facility I request immediate ceasefire to prevent loss of life. There are children here, innocent hybrids who need evacuation and medical attention. Static answered her. The coalition ships were jamming communications standard procedure before an assault. She adjusted the signal strength, boosting it through the facility's main power system. This is Senior Envoy Amy Green, she repeated. Please respond. Guardian Lieutenant Mason, if you can hear me, respond. The console crackled, then a familiar voice broke through Amy. This is Lieutenant Mason aboard the Guardian. We have been searching for you. Amy felt relief flood through her. Trina, I need you to halt your attack. There are children here, hybrid children created by the facility, but they are innocent. They need medical evacuation. There was a pause. Then Admiral Patel's voice cut in. Senior Envoy, we detected weapons firing from the asteroid. You expect us to hold our attack while under fire. The defensive systems are automated, Admiral, Amy explained. They can be deactivated. I have allies inside the facility, hybrids who question their creator's purpose. Another explosion rocked the asteroid closer this time. The lights dimmed, then brightened again. We can't maintain this ceasefire for long, Senior Envoy Patel said. Our scans show the asteroid is heavily armed. If those weapons fully deploy, we will suffer casualties. I understand. Amy replied. Just give me time to evacuate the children and to transmit the research data I have gathered. Here it is crucial both for the children and for understanding this threat. You have 30 minutes, Envoy, Patel said. Not 1 second more. The communication ended. Amy turned to Nexus. We need to move quickly. Take me to the medical level. We must prepare the children for evacuation. As they hurried through the corridors, they encountered more hybrids. Some tried to stop them, but others among Nexus group intervened. The facility was descending into chaos as news of the impending attack spread. Some remained loyal to Foster, others now questioned the purpose they had been created for. The medical level was crowded with staff preparing for casualties. Dr. Levine looked up in surprise as Amy and Nexus entered. "How did you?" "No time," Amy interrupted. "The Coalition fleet is holding fire temporarily to allow evacuation of the children. We must move them to shuttles immediately, but many are too unstable to move." Dr. Levine protested. "I have completed the stabilizing formula." Amy said she had been working on it mentally during her captivity, refining the temporary solution into something more durable. It will hold them until they can receive proper treatment aboard the Coalition vessels. Foster will never allow this. "Dr. Levine," said Foster, "no longer speaks for all of us," Nexus replied. Other hybrids had entered the medical bay, all wearing the same determined expression. 50 more waited throughout the facility. The descent had grown faster than Amy had anticipated. Dr. Levine hesitated, only briefly, then she nodded. "What do you need?" "The genetic laboratory," Amy said. "I must synthesize enough of the compound for all the affected children, and I need to access the research database. The data must be preserved." They moved with urgency, rushing to the primary laboratory. The facility continued to shake as the Coalition vessels maintained position, firing only on external defense systems. The uneasy truce would not last long. In the laboratory, Amy worked with practiced efficiency, her 4 arms moving simultaneously, preparing the stabilizing compound. While it synthesized, she accessed the main database, downloading the genetic research to her personal scanner. The knowledge it contained was dangerous, but also valuable. It could help the hybrid children and prevent similar mistakes in the future. The first batches of the compound were rushed to the medical bays, where Dr. Levine and her staff administered it to the most critical patients. The effect was immediate. The children stabilized, their vital signs strengthening. "Begin evacuation." Amy ordered. Nexus and his allies had secured several shuttles large enough to transport the children and medical staff. The most stable hybrids were helping move the younger ones, preparing them for departure. A new alarm sounded throughout the facility. "Warning, security breach Section 8. Unauthorized shuttle launches. Detected." Foster knows, Nexus said, his expression grim. "She will try to stop the evacuation. Keep working," Amy told him. "I need to find Foster." "This ends now." Amy made her way toward the command center, the route now familiar from her days in the facility. She encountered several skirmishes, hybrid fighting hybrid, as the facility divided between those loyal to Foster and those who had joined Nexus. The division seemed to fall along genetic lines, those with stronger Caraxian traits showing more capacity for independent thought, those with dominant human characteristics remaining loyal to their creator. The command center doors were sealed, but a group of Nexus allies had forced their way in. When Amy arrived, she found chaos. Foster stood surrounded by loyal hybrids facing off against the dissenters. The standoff had reached a critical point. "Stop this, Foster," Amy said, moving forward. "You have lost. The Coalition fleet surrounds us. The children are being evacuated. Your research has been secured. End this peacefully." Foster turned, her eyes wild with anger. "You have destroyed everything. Everything we worked for. You turned our creations against us, not against you," Amy corrected. "Against war. Against being used as weapons. They have chosen peace. The very thing my original research was meant to create. They are not meant to choose." Foster spat. "They are meant to obey. To fulfill their purpose. Their purpose is their own to determine." Amy replied, "That is the true gift of both human and Caraxian heritage. The capacity for choice." The facility shook more violently, a direct hit penetrating the weakened defenses. The 30-minute ceasefire was ending. "We are out of time," Amy said to Nexus. "How many children have been evacuated?" "Most," he replied. "The shuttles are departing now. Dr. Levine is coordinating with the Coalition vessels." "Good." Amy turned back to Foster. "It is over. Doctor, your remaining hybrids have a choice: surrender and face Coalition justice, or die here." Foster laughed, a bitter sound. "This facility has one final defense system. A self-destruct mechanism powerful enough to destroy not only the Asteroid, but any vessels nearby. You have 10 minutes to evacuate everyone. Then I will activate it. Amy studied the human woman, seeing the fanaticism in her eyes. She believed absolutely in her cause, in the righteousness of her actions. Such conviction was dangerous because it could not be reasoned with. Nexus, step forward, he said quietly to the hybrid. He moved closer to Foster, his expression unreadable. Tell the coalition vessels to withdraw to a safe distance, Amy said. We will take the last shuttle. Foster smiled triumphantly. You see, even now you must flee, proving the superiority of what we have created.